In episode number 410 of the Reasons I'm Broke podcast, we cover Michael Keaton's return as Batman in the Flash film.
We also have Diamond's plans for Free Comic Book Day. It was pushed back, but not forgotten.
Our comic book review this week is Batman the Smile Killer #1, as voted by the Brocat Core.
All of this and so much more on today's show.
Hello and welcome to your award-winning The Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week, ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I am Ruin Maniac Daniel.
And I am Emperor Kelli.
For anyone new to the show, first we go through some news. We head into our Patreon shoutouts of the week, which are thank yous to all of you who make the show possible. We head into our comic book highlight, and we finally finish it off with the Brocat Block, which is what Kelli and I have been doing this week.
Our first bit of news this week has to do with the big screen. The Hollywood Reporter has revealed that a film based on K.A. Applegate's Animorph series of books is in active development. Rumor is it's going to be titled, Who Cares?
I definitely think there is an audience and some heavy potential for this. 35 million copies of the books are in print for the series, which ran from 1996 to 2001.
What? They were just kids who transformed into animals?
So the Andalites, one of them crash landed into Earth, very much like the Green Lantern story, I guess, now that I think about it. That's the first time I've kind of made that connection. But he gives them the cube, and all five kids touch the cube, and it gives them the power to transform into any animal that they touch. I guess any living thing. I can't remember if they eventually get the power to do it with humans or they were restricted to not being able to do it with humans.
Just touch the cube, kids. You'll be able to turn into anything you want. You just gotta touch the cube.
But if they end up staying like that for, I think, an hour or half an hour, then they're permanently stuck as that animal. And eventually their minds revert into that animal's brain because it's physically impossible for you to still have that mental human mind in an animal's. And it's all because of these taxons, I think they were called, that are going through your ear, kind of like Wrath of Khan. Now I'm making all these sci-fi connections.
Taxes are going to get you, kids. So you need to touch this cube.
And they sit on your brain, they flatten themselves, and they stick in that area between the skull and the brain, and they just sit there and they control you completely. And you are now in control of these aliens that have really taken over a huge portion of the human population, and that's what these Animorph kids are trying to do and trying to stop and help the Andalites from stopping these taxons.
Why do the Andalites care?
They've been warring with these creatures from what I remember many years, and I think they had fucked up their planet completely, and their leader is an Andalite, I think. And that's another reason why they really have a thing against these guys. They're a parasite.
They don't care about Earth. They just care about getting back at these assholes.
Well, they want to take over everything. And I thought there was, this is years when I last read this, but I thought there was something on Earth. I think they're trying to get the cube. That might be it. They might be trying to get the cube itself. But it all ends in a cliffhanger anyway. And she intended to end it as a cliffhanger where they're just like, ram the ship. And then that's how the book ends. And she just has this epilogue at the end where she's like, I know it's what a way to end it and blah, blah, blah. Still don't know if that was her excuse for it. I know it's very difficult to end any story at all, to have it be satisfying. Just look at Game of Thrones and how much people were upset about the show, at least. But I don't see this film being anything like, all right, here's the full story from the books, because they go into outer space at one point and there's all these backstories to different aliens, races and species and stories that at this point, I think it's just going to be probably the first couple of books made into a film.
I'm still stuck on touch my cube, kid. You'll turn into whatever you want.
Went straight to that.
Because it was so, why do you find children? Go find adults. You're like, Kelli, it was written for kids.
It was the only thing there. And it was written for teenagers, yeah.
Just let me develop this character in my mind.
You would make them vampires, is what you would do.
Hell yeah, I would. You can turn into anything you want. What about a vampire? Well, no thanks, dude.
Let's just walk away. I'm excited. I will be there. And I'm curious to know if this movie will be made with my demographic in mind. We're now adults, or if they're going to try to catch younger kids and current teenagers. And if they do, I think they're going to have to make it very different than what the Animorph books were.
You can't be touching cubes.
No.
Initially I was like, you have fun seeing that movie. But now I'm like, how can you make someone who has no idea and who doesn't care like this as well? So I'm in, but I'm going to be a very tough critic.
You're like, this has Abin Sur, but he's kind of pedophilic, so I don't know. You're like, I'm intrigued a little bit.
Just call me Sir.
Can he be played by James Gunn?
I hope so.
That'd be
perfect.
Then I won't watch
Then it's
it,
not
though.
even acting.
Jesus, that's true. That's scary now. That's not... I don't want this movie. I don't want this Animorphs. That's how you ruin Animorphs. Just add James Gunn to the equation in any fucking way.
You add him to anything and it's ruined.
And hopefully one day we will be able to see Animorphs at our local AMC, which ran into some fire this past week.
After AMC Theater's CEO Adam Aron's comments on masks being optional faced hours of ridicule, AMC has reversed its decision and will now require moviegoers to wear face coverings.
A statement from the company read, quote, "In those areas of the country where masks will not be required, we nonetheless planned to strongly encourage mask usage by guests and fully expected that the vast majority would do so. That policy on guest mask usage, which is directly comparable with our major competitors and many other highly regarded retailers, was announced yesterday afternoon," end quote.
What this reads to me is that they'll have signs posted that say, please wear a mask, but they're not actually enforcing it. On the other side, you don't have to wear it when you eat or drink, and so everybody who gets a concession is going to be in the movie theater, and realistically, once they take that off to eat and drink, do you think they're putting it back on at any point during that movie? Absolutely not. So for me, this is mostly just for show. Like, oh, yep, we're supportive of that too, but they really understand the majority of people aren't going to follow this to the T throughout the entire movie.
And that's how I've been seeing this anyway. Like, I don't actually believe that I am vastly helping or preventing anyone else from getting this disease if I were to carry it, for example, because I from what I've seen, that the face mask coverings, you have to have a certain kind for it to be effective at all. I think most people don't have the right type of masks. They just, I see people make their own and they just put cloth over their face, but the COVID disease is so small that it goes through all of those little fibers, and air will find a way out no matter which way you're breathing. So to me, yeah, it is mostly for show, and that's fine. I'm not bothered by it at this point anymore because I understand that it's to, I guess, show your good faith in trying to maintain this disease as much as possible. I think the most important thing still is maintaining that distance from someone else. It is washing your hands and being hygienic as much as possible. Yeah. It's unfortunate, though, that AMC was stuck in this early tough place of, no, we're going to open. We're not going to require masks if they're not required by the county. And that's where the shit hit the fan, unfortunately, with them, because all these other major theater chain said, no, we are going to require them, and it made AMC look terrible, and they had to retract that statement. And I think you're right. As soon as people have been seeing in the comments, how am I supposed to eat popcorn if I can't wear a mask? I guess I'm not buying concessions then when I'm at AMC. How else have you gone anywhere else where food is being served and you have to wear a mask? As you said, you take off the mask, you eat, you put it back on when you're ordering or when you're leaving the lobby or whatever it is. How do they handle it at your store when they're drinking coffee?
They take off their mask. And even though the county that we're in is requiring that people wear masks, it's not a forced mandate. And there are some companies, in our area that are saying we are not allowing you in if you don't have a mask. But I'm not doing that. I'm not the police, right? I'm not going to tell someone, oh, you can't come in, because you're just going to come in and you're going to order and then, you're going to take it off to drink your coffee. My security is in the fact that I'm doing everything I can to be safe, and I'm allowing my employees to do everything they can to be safe, and I'm taking that ownership on us rather than putting it on other people. You know, I'm making sure the biggest one for me, and I'm so triggered when I go when I go see it, is I went to a restaurant that said I had to wear a mask to walk in, even though I had to only wear it to order and then I could take it off. But the girl taking my order had the mask below her nose. So it's like, even if it was the right kind that was going to do something, you're not wearing it properly. And so you've entirely defeated the purpose of wearing this anyway. You put your safety on me rather than put that on your own shoulders. But I did order some Pokemon masks now that it's required. I'm really excited. It's a black one with a bunch of Pikachu faces. It's super cute. And then I have another black one that just has the Pokeball on one side. And so I think I'm going to get like a Team Rocket patch and put it on the other and be like, yeah, I'm so cool. Oh, and then I got one that says fueled by coffee.
Yeah, I ended up getting 2 Pokemon masks as well. I think ours are going to arrive at about the same time. I got a Mimikyu mouth one, and then the Mudkip as well. That was one of my favorite starters, and a great Pokemon once it evolves. Even in its Mega form where it gets really buff, it's an amazing starter.
Swampert? Is that his name?
Yes, Mega Swampert.
I did have him too. He wasn't my favorite of that, though. I think I like the grass snake thing. Trico.
Snivy.
No,
Oh,
Trico.
okay, gotcha.
Trico was that right? I guess he was a grass lizard, not a grass snake.
With the Christmas tree on his tail?
Did he get a Christmas tree on his butt? I don't remember. You want to know what my favorite part of that whole game was? The Trickster's house. Do you remember that dude?
I don't.
Oh my God. So I only remember his house. I don't know why, because the grass area, like around the corner, that's where my Trico evolved. And I was like, yeah, and I remember this so vividly. But his house was right before that grassy area. And you went in and he was hiding something in his house somewhere, and you had to go find it. And then when you found it, he was like, oh, cool, here's this prize, right? But it got progressively harder and like more difficult. And you had to use things like cut and strength and all that kind of stuff as you progress through the game to beat his challenges. So you got better and better things. And I don't even remember what he gave me, but I was like, yeah, puzzle. I can't believe he didn't remember he was like a big part. I don't know. He was a big part of the game for me.
Apparently. Jesus.
He was like the trick master or trickster or something. I don't know. If you remember, let me know on Twitter at Kelli.
Well, I'll tell you something that was a big part of me, especially when I was growing up, and that was Batman from 1989. And this came out of nowhere, a story I did not expect, and it's one that everyone has been talking about, and more than happy to discuss it here with Emperor Kelli. According to the Wrap, Michael Keaton is in early talks with Warner Brothers to reprise his role as Batman in the Flash film, as well as a cameo role in future DC movies.
The report states that this film will be loosely based on Flashpoint and will take place 30 years after Batman returns, ignoring Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, as we all do.
Yeah, I mean, if they're trying to tell a certain story, and a lot of people now want Michelle Pfeiffer to come back as Catwoman, and for there to be a history between that Batman and that Catwoman, and to see that 30 years later would be really fascinating. Warner Brothers has not commented on this story. The Flash is currently set for June 3rd, 2022. A lot of conflicting feelings on my end. Why don't we get your thoughts first?
Well, when this first popped up on my Facebook, I was like, nah, fake news. What are you guys talking about? This isn't going to happen. I definitely feel if we do get him, he's not going to be a Thomas Wayne. He's going to be a Batman.
Right.
Many years older, many years more jaded. I don't know. I think with the Flash, it's extremely easy to be like, this is another universe, right? And okay, if you're gonna tie all these together, you do it with Flash, realistically. I think that Michael Keaton's just gotten better with age in his acting. I really liked him in Spider-Man when he played the Vulture.
Right, in Homecoming.
Right.
He was the best part of that movie.
I know, absolutely fantastic. So could I really see him bringing that really dark tone to Batman, like in a better costume where he doesn't have to move his whole body to look up? I could. I'm going to trust their vision and say maybe this isn't what I would have decided to do. I would love to see Thomas Wayne being Batman, kicking ass and shooting people. But I think this is a really cool way also to get people who were fans of that movie, who maybe haven't been on board with the new DC movies, to kind of bring them in too and be like, look, here's what we've created. Here's how it ties in with this other thing that you love so much. Let's move forward from here.
With the speculation that there's going to be, this contract involves several cameo roles in future films, people think that maybe it's more of a mentor or as a guidance role as this older Batman, as Flash goes into the different versions of the DC universe, loosely based on Flashpoint. So maybe this Batman, here's where I'm conflicted, because a big name like Michael Keaton, he's going to be a big part of this Flash film. So is Jeffrey Dean Morgan now no longer going to appear as Thomas Wayne Batman? And if he's not, to me, that's a huge wasted opportunity. And it's also a huge part of Flashpoint, where the Reverse Flash ruined this timeline for Barry Allen, for Thomas Wayne, made the worst reality possible true for Thomas and Martha Wayne of, no, your child is the one who dies, not you. And in this alternate universe, he becomes Batman. He becomes like his father, which they both don't want either, right? As we later read in DC Rebirth, Thomas just wants Bruce to be happy and to not have the same life he had as Batman. But what he's not understanding is it's not the same life. It's a different Batman. And he was able to find happiness through the Bat family, through Selena Kyle as well, and things didn't quite work out that same way with Thomas Wayne. That I want to see on the big screen. And it doesn't have to be exactly like the books, but that's a huge part of Flashpoint, a huge part of the heart of it. And Jeffrey Dean Morgan is such a talent that to me it would be a waste.
I don't know that we necessarily won't see that, though. So can you imagine maybe this first movie you have Michael Keaton, who's helping him try to get back to his timeline, right? Helping Flash work through some stuff, X, Y, and Z, really showing him who Batman is and who Batman grew into, whatever. And then at the very end, Flash is trying to go back and, oh shit, he ended up in Flashpoint, right? And now we see Thomas Wayne, and now Flash is even more conflicted because he spent time not only with a younger Batman, but with an older Batman to really understand more. And yeah, okay, there's another movie. Can we just put this on HBO too and just have like a bunch of shit?
However we can consume this and continue the Snyderverse, absolutely. I also hope that Ben Affleck shows up in some capacity in this, if anything, to deliver that letter, if we do get this Thomas Wayne, because that's another moment that I think should play out in the Flashpoint film. It's a huge part of the comic again, but I don't know how Ben feels right now as far as continuing to be the Batman. He hasn't been doing those interviews like Henry Cavill has on, yes, I want to be Superman for years to come. For Ben, it's more, he's done those interviews, and I don't know if it was because of what was happening with the Snyder Cut and between Warner Brothers and everything, where he was saying, I just didn't want to do it anymore, and he lost his, I guess, drive or passion for it. Or because of the Snyder Cut, maybe that does mean that that's reignited with Zack back on board in some capacity. He's like, no, that's the Batman I signed up for. There's a lot of questions here.
For realsies, though, if you're going to go that direction, I could see Pattinson as a younger Keaton more so than Ben Affleck. It would really have to be two different universes of Batman.
Well, that's another question right there. Obviously, DC, Warner Brothers, AT&T, they're all open to this multiverse, right? We've been seeing this with DC Fandom, and that's been a huge bullet point on their whole presentation. They are embracing the different versions of Batman, of the DC universe, and we've already seen that crossover between the two Flashes. Will we see Pattinson make some kind of appearance in the Flash film?
If we're going to have a whole shit ton of Batverses, absolutely. And why are they even just call it like Batman and the Flash? All the Batman and the Flash.
If we're going to get any multiverse, anything, if you're going to include Pattinson in here, the Flash film is the one you're going to do it with, especially when it's loosely based on Flashpoint.
Throw Lucifer in there while we're at it.
Why not?
Fuck it. Yeah, but only Lucifer. Don't.
Oh, Constantine? No, you don't want Constantine to make it into the film universe?
I mean, he could, but just those two. No, nobody else.
What about that villain from Swamp Thing before he dies?
I'm a murderer.
They have to bring him along, and they have to keep him in line the whole time, and he keeps trying to kill people.
Just randos on the street.
Yeah.
Turns out he killed Bruce.
But they can't leave him somewhere because that'll fuck up the whole timeline and multiverse, so they have to keep bringing him along.
I want them, they have to accidentally leave him in a club, and like all the ladies flock to him. And he's planning their murders, but he's still accepting appletini because they're delicious.
Do you want to see the evil Aquaman or the evil Wonder Woman, I guess Flashpoint, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman in this film, or do you think that's going to be too big for what they're, I guess, planning?
I would love to see that, but I do think it's going to be way too big for what they're planning. And I don't know. It's tough because I think audience resonated with those characters so much and they have so much positive energy behind them that I don't know what it would do if you put them on the big screen as being evil. And like for us, I know that we would well receive that and it would really hit home harder to be like, oh man, this whole universe is really fucked up because these great pillars of strength and positivity and goodness in the world are now destroying it. But I don't know how the general audience would take that.
It would also make it a very expensive film on top of that. Here's the last bit, and this is all speculation. How insane would it be if the Reverse Flash changed and messed with Keaton's timeline so much that we get a surprise appearance by Jack Nicholson as an older Joker?
Stop!
Wouldn't that be fucking nuts?
It's not going to happen. Calm down.
But wouldn't that be crazy?
It would be crazy.
That's like some pipeline.
But it could also explain why we're ignoring the other Batman films.
What do you mean?
Because he comes in and just fucks up their timeline. And he's like, oh, those don't exist now.
Gotcha. I mean, obviously everything would be reborn if they do a rebirth thing or if they just kind of fix the whole timelines or get Flash back to where he belongs. Mm-hmm. Either way, this is very exciting. And again, I am conflicted because I do want to see more Batfleck. But this, who knows? This is, I hope, something that is being planned and aligned with everything that happened with AT&T, HBO Max, and now Zack Snyder's Justice League.
I have a theory.
What's your theory
now? Somebody bought AT&T on the down low. They were both the richest man in the world and the biggest DC fan in the world because they're just whatever, do it. Just do it.
Right.
But as soon as Warner Brothers changed their plan, they're like, buy them. Buy them up.
Here's a story that broke a day after we recorded, but I feel like we still had to talk about it because it's such a huge fucking tease.
Director Zack Snyder, in case anybody didn't know that he was a director, took to Twitter to share a teaser trailer to his Justice League with the text, quote, "Get ready for more at DC Fandom," end quote.
Ding dong. The god is dead.
That tells me that we're going to get the full trailer at DC Fandom in August. The brief teaser featured the true scene of Diana coming across the history lesson through the Greek temple, and it ended with a shot of Uxas, who we know later becomes Darkseid.
He was just wearing a little skirt.
Had his weapon at the ready.
Just looking fabulous.
It's like I said during the Snyder Cut roundtables, it's the history lesson that I'm most excited for currently. Like, yes, there's a lot of talk about Green Lantern right now, but that history lesson, when you watch it, it's incredibly short. It's really cut up, and I want to see that full epic play out where gods themselves were needed to bring back and push back Uxas. And then later on at the very end of the film, he's much more powerful. He's Darkseid, and we have modern gods who are not Zeus or the god of war, but instead it is Bruce and Wonder Woman and Superman. It's a huge threat, and it makes you want more with Justice League 2. What did you think about this huge teaser trailer?
I mean, I knew it was going to happen. I knew it was coming. It was cool. I don't remember the history lesson as well as you do. And I don't really have a desire to go back and watch it again. But very excited for the things that are coming. Happy that it's here, right? It's still kind of not really real sometimes that this is what we fought for and that we're actually getting it. It's so cool to see Darkseid in his cool little skirt standing there. Now that I'm thinking about it, I should cosplay as Darkseid. Be real easy.
I still like that tweet that was like, "Men, what's stopping you from looking like this?" It's a picture of Uxas.
Gross.
And some guys like the anti-life equation.
All right, that's clever.
It was awesome. It was a great tease. And there was also that voiceover, the same lines that we got from Lex Luthor at the end of BVS. To me, they sounded very different. It didn't sound like the exact same take from BVS. I'd have to go back and compare them. And some people were saying that it's even a completely different actor. I haven't gone back and really dug in that much. But I
You
think when
haven't
we
looked
get
at the
that,
stars yet?
yeah, compare the two wavelengths and seen where they match, and gone back the number of years and digitally recreated it to how old he would be now. Did he actually
Did his
record
voice
this today?
change?
And,
Did he
right.
start smoking recently? Which also would have.
Jesse Eisenberg, right. So I think when we get the full trailer, we'll probably get more answers as far as that. And if anything, next year when we get it on HBO Max. I like that Zach is pushing DC Fandom. That's smart of AT&T and all of them to include him as part of all of this, because we're all going to be fucking flooding the site.
Oh, for sure. It's going to go down. 100%.
That's what people are saying.
Yeah, it's going to go down. I'm calling it. I'm palpa calling it.
Do you think that's a good thing? Do you think that's a good news story, bad or good PR?
That's tough to say. I don't know. I don't know what, like, really, if you have that many people coming to your site, I am not a techie. I don't know what they can really do to prevent that. But
Put up a shit ton of servers.
Right. And
they're expensive.
of course. So they're going to do the best that they can in anticipation. But yeah, it's probably going to go down at some point. So yeah, good PR. Because there's probably a bunch of assholes going to check it out too. Like, yeah, but this is lame.
This is lame, but I'm still going to watch it to hate watch it.
Look, the website went down. It's so stupid. Good. Sign off so we can get on.
It's just like I'm getting Vietnam flashbacks to the unemployment website now. Fuck.
Forever. I will have be triggered by 2020 for the rest of my life.
And it's not over yet, so get ready.
It's only halfway done.
Now we have some comic book news, the rest of the news stories here. DC Comics has pulled a planned Warren Ellis / Jim Chung story from the August 4th Dark Knight's Death Metal Legends of the Dark Knights #1 one-shot.
We have a quote here. It's an announcement to retailers in an email that was sent out Friday that said, quote, "The previously announced 2-page story in Dark Knight's Death Metal Legends of the Dark Knights #1 by Warren Ellis and Jim Chung will be replaced with a 2-page story written by Margaret Bennett and illustrated by Jamal Igle," end quote.
So this was done days after sexual misconduct allegations from several women came up dating back to the early 2000s.
These allegations were against Warren Ellis, who stated in his Orbital Operations newsletter, quote, "I hurt people deeply. I am ashamed for these mistakes, and I am profoundly sorry. I will not speak against other people's personal truths, and I will not expose them to the toxicity of the current discourse. I should have been more aware, more present, and more respectful of people's feelings, and for that, I apologize," end quote.
So Warren's story was originally set to tell the origin of T-Rex Batman. I'm sure someone else will just simply take over and do their own retelling or their own story, or they'll just omit the origin altogether. But I was listening to Word Balloon, and it seems like Tom and John were talking about these allegations and how the comic industry, King was saying that the top 10 comic writers are all highest paid comic writers are all men. And the reason for that is because the comic industry is so small and tight that to get in on working at all, you have to know the right people. And he, for example, said he hung out at bars until 3 a.m. just to talk to that editor or just to talk to that person that worked in DC Comics and try to get his foot in. And unfortunately, in that male-dominated comic world, a lot of that women did get pressured into sexual favors and sexual misconduct. People with power took advantage of many up-and-coming writers that were trying to get into the industry, and a lot of that is coming out now. Someone as big as Warren Ellis, that career is completely finished, especially during these times, and there was no defense against this at all, and it seems like he just went by saying, I'm not going to speak against their personal. He's just going to end up doing Kickstarters and Indiegogo campaigns, I think, for the rest of his career. A lot of people in the industry, including male writers, have come out and confirmed it. And Tom, for example, said that he brought it up with the right departments for it, and due to the name, they weren't able to do anything because of it. So he ended up just distancing himself completely from any events or any interactions with him.
I'm sure a lot of his quote was handled by someone else, but I do really appreciate the fact within it, and everything, whatever he did was wrong, obviously. But I do appreciate the fact that within it, he says, I'm not going to fight against the truth of others. And I think that that is the most important piece of that. And from what you've now said, yes, he probably did all those things. I'm sure he did do all those things. But even if he felt that he was in the right for them to sit there and say, but it's their truth, I'm not in their head, I don't understand how they were feeling, so I can't say that, no, that wasn't really what it was, if they feel that way.
Obviously, DC made the right move by removing his story from this. Jimmy Chung, I hope, still gets to do some work for this one-shot, which is set to tell the origin of many of these different evil Batmen. So if you did enjoy Dark Knight's Death Metal, make sure to add this Legends of the Dark Knights to your pull list.
Or if you're like me, who cares? As we said in the very beginning, we have some news about Free Comic Book Day. If you don't know what that is, it's huge. It's giant. Show up to your comic book shop, get a free comic or several free comics. But this was originally set for the first Saturday in May. Of course, everything got pushed back due to the pandemic, but Free Comic Book Day is coming back in July with weekly releases planned for every Wednesday from July 15th to September 9th.
So there was a lot of pushback from retailers that I saw, a lot of mixed reactions to it as well. But I think it was a lose-lose situation for however Free Comic Book Day was done. Many retailers were saying that they should have just straight up canceled it this year, just delivered the books, had us be able to adjust our numbers, obviously, because we were not going to be able to move them or have an event around it that would spike sales for that day. And then we can choose to handle Free Comic Book Day however they'd like. And some were saying that they should just do it on one day because that's the whole idea. It's Free Comic Book Day. That's when we can capitalize on these sales. But to be honest with you, you don't want to congregate people on one day.
Right.
This is the way. If you're going to do Free Comic Book Day, this was probably the best way to handle it so that you spread out the releases, do them on different weeks, spread the crowds out, and take the pressure off of the comic shops of needing to limit the number of people that are coming into the store on one day, because Free Comic Book Day is always very busy. It is amazing, but there's a lot of people that come through those doors, and to try to limit that crowd, it's not going to be easy for especially smaller businesses or smaller comic shops that on top of that are dealing with a lot of the city limits that are already being put into place. So I think this was probably the right move. And I know there's been some inner talk, at least with the store I work for, of at the very end of all of these weeks, then doing a big Free Comic Book Day celebration in September so that we can also have that big Free Comic Book Day, obviously handling it week by week, depending on how cases go and if it's the responsible thing to do. But at the very least, it would let us plan way ahead of time to do a big event like that. My problem with Free Comic Book Day right now is having them release on Wednesday. You are obviously the Wednesday warriors who are already there Wednesdays anyway are going to pick these up. But to me, Free Comic Book Day was always the event that was mainly for newcomers or people getting into comic books or people that want to go out and support their local comic shop. We see a lot of first-time visitors. Most of our people coming into those doors, we either only see on Free Comic Book Day or we only see them for events like Pokemon tournaments or gaming events or anniversary sales. Holidays especially, those are the kind of people that we get, and because of that, they end up picking up merchandise like Funko Pops, like trade paperbacks, back issues. The Wednesday Warriors, they're great and everything, but that's not going to lead into those extra sales that I think Diamond believes is what's going to happen with these.
I don't know that they think that'll necessarily happen, but going back to your point of trying to get in other people, yes, this releases on Wednesday, right? But why don't you advertise it for Saturday? So come in Saturday every single week, receive a free comic book. You put up the picture of the comic that came out this week, or are they releasing one every week or multiples?
Multiples every week.
Okay, so you put up, the multiples. Here's the free comic books that we have this Saturday. Come out and get them. And yeah, they're available on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday, but you're drawing them in on that Saturday on their day off. And it's still, oh, let me make this extra trip. One, we got nothing else to do because still a lot of things are closed. But two, that's a fun activity for us to go out and we know we're going to get something out of it. And yeah, let's browse the store.
Yeah, I think by making it on Wednesday, it is a huge problem, especially you mentioned that was the key to it, is if you do it on Saturday when people have their weekend, the whole idea is to bring in these families. It's a huge family event, Free Comic Book Day. So I think that is a good idea. I will bring that up with the boss man. I think Saturdays is a great idea.
It's like your wife's going to be a marketing major or something.
The problem, here's one thing I will say to any brokettes that do frequent their comic shop is they're not forced to follow these guidelines by Diamond. This is more them saying this is the plan, but still double check with your comic shop because some of them may just choose to release them as soon as they get them or do a big event at the end or maybe do them on Saturdays like you were saying. So there is no set rule on how this is really going to be handled. And especially during these times with limited hours, I wouldn't expect any shop to really pull this off every Wednesday as the, Newsarama or Bleeding Cool are saying.
Someone this week told me, because I questioned something when we were out somewhere, and you just reminded me of it. They said Florida is a lawless wasteland. I feel like that's where we are right now. It's like it's lawless right now. We'll get them on Wednesdays, but who knows when they're coming out.
Maybe there won't be a Wednesday.
We'll release them on Wednesdays, but we'll be closed.
We do have some updates, though, on the Free Comic Book Day releases. DC Comics' Generation Zero title is no longer on the release slate for Free Comic Book Summer. That's what they're calling it now. And I know Scott Snyder had said that there were definitely major changes as soon as Dan DiDio was fired, and that it is no longer the plans that he wanted. So I think this is all a result of that because Generation Zero probably set the stage for what he wanted, and for them to have to redo that whole thing, they were probably better off just canceling it and offering something else as a reprint or just offering less this year.
Could that potentially have something to do with their split from Diamond as well?
That's something I would have to look into because if Diamond is still distributing the Free Comic Book Day books, I know they are for DC for the next couple of weeks, then it has nothing to do with Diamond. I think it is more story-driven for sure.
Well, I'm excited. Even if it's not one giant day, it's still great to have that opportunity to go in, pick up a book, especially if maybe you haven't been to a comic shop in a while or maybe you're not really into them. It's free.
That does wrap up our news for the week. Let's head into our monthly segment with what's new on Netflix, our July 2020 highlights.
These are just our highlights, things that we enjoy, things that we feel pertain to both us and the show. If you want the full list, you can go on Google or your favorite search engine, type in what's new on Netflix, July 2020.
First one on this list is the greatest Batman film of all time. It is Batman Mask of the Phantasm. I'm going to be playing that shit every single day.
Non-stop.
On repeat at the comic book shop.
It is really great. Best Batman film of all time. That's why you got it tattooed. You have the Phantasm tattooed on your body. Yeah.
And I can't wait to see more Phantasm in the Batman Catwoman Maxi series. And I loved her appearance in Batman Beyond where she gets hired to kill Terry's parents. What a great callback and a great appearance. No excuse to not watch this on repeat.
Another one you should watch on repeat is Charlotte's Web from No, please don't watch it. Charlotte's Web from 2006. I've never seen this movie.
You never saw this remake? That's the only reason I included it because I'm like, maybe Kelly saw it.
Nope.
I saw it once, and that was about it.
I saw the old animated one many, many times, and I really enjoyed that one, and I cried every time that Charlotte had to die.
Spoilers on this, 100-year-old story?
I feel like now, I don't know, I don't feel like I would get enough out of it, because I'm like, it's a pig and a creepy spider, but...
It's for kids.
It is.
Just like
it is for
the
kids.
MCU. They're for kids. Next one on this list is Paranormal Activity.
Still never seen this one either.
I think there's like 7 or 8 of those fucking things
billion,
now.
Yes. Because they just have to do a video from the corner of a bedroom.
Well, that's the thing. It was very low cost to produce, kind of like Blair Witch. It was the Blair Witch of its time. And even though, yes, we had like that found footage type of movie, something like this where it's taken... Because I remember when people talked about it, they said the whole movie is taken from the perspective of these different cameras that are set up around the house and it's a ghost story. And that was kind of the pitch and what was unique about it to all of the, common moviegoers that wanted to get something scary out of it. And when the cameras are shifting from each one, and then suddenly there's something there that wasn't there before. It really captured people's attention.
Yeah, I remember people talking about this a lot. I am not about scary movies. I just, even thinking about that, like, I'm freaked out. And I can't. I don't like jump scares. We do not have a monitor where I can see Leo because I would be terrified as well.
We were talking about the great Liam Neeson last week. Well, here we have one of his best works with Schindler's List.
Ugh, that movie was so great. I just remember the part like, here's my watch, here's my car, that could have been. And I just,
oh yes.
Schindler.
What a powerful moment at the very end. And then Ray Fiennes is the villain.
Yes.
He played such a good fucking villain.
I pardon you.
Yeah.
Really great movie. If you haven't seen it, definitely a classic.
I also added Sleepless in Seattle as one of the highlights because one of my favorite movies is The Cable Guy. And I remember as a teenager as a kid watching The Cable Guy, and they clip Sleepless in Seattle a couple of times, and I always wanted to see it. Tom Hanks is in it, and I think Meg Ryan plays the love interest, and I'm like, I have to see it. I have to know what Chip Douglas is talking about in Cable Guy, and now I get my chance.
It's not a great movie.
Really? Even with Tom Hanks?
Yeah, and it's not that the acting isn't great, the story, and I think at the time, people probably really responded well to the story, but now, and I actually just read about it in class, it's a very toxic relationship. Like,
gotcha.
It's not okay. They barely know each other, and like they're meeting up and not prioritizing themselves, I guess is the right way to put it, putting all their investment into this relationship that it's just not a healthy way to go about it, ultimately, at the end.
Did you ever see City of Angels?
I don't think I did.
With Nick Cage and Meg Ryan?
Oh my goodness, Nick Cage.
His Ghost Rider is on Netflix now. We've been playing that.
Oh boy, I haven't seen that either. I probably need to.
Star Wars fans, listen up because Spaceballs is hitting Netflix.
I have only ever seen clips of this movie, so we may have to check it out.
Saw it as a teen. Wasn't for me, but I'm also not huge into Star Wars.
You know what movies I loved as a teen, which this reminds me of? All the Thumb movies. Do you remember those?
No.
There was Thumb Wars, there was Bat Thumb. It was just people dressing up their thumbs and they like superimposed faces on them. They were not for teens, but I watched them and I really enjoyed them. I can't believe you didn't know about those.
No, never heard of it.
Oh my God, we're going to have to look it up.
This one comes from Zack Snyder. It's Sucker Punch hitting Netflix.
Also haven't seen that one. We have a lot of movies we got to watch this month.
It's going to be a very busy month. We actually own Sucker Punch, the director's cut version,
cool.
So we can always watch it at any point. It's on Vudu.
Well, now I know.
The Karate Kid trilogy
Wax
is also
on,
hitting Netflix.
Wax off.
I have an excuse to play that in the store because there's a Cobra Kai comic, so that allows us to play the trilogy.
You have your whole wall mapped out with the red strings everywhere about why you can play the movies that you do.
Well, can I play the next one? Can you figure out a way for me to play Unsolved Mysteries Season 15, which is a Netflix original?
Hell yeah, I'll find a way to get you to play that. What's something you haven't figured out that happened in the store?
I honestly don't have any Unsolved Mysteries in the store. There's nothing broken that I'm like, how did that happen? Because I know how the broken things happened in the store. There was that Red Sun. I didn't know who bought it up until 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, but now you know, so that's
mystery.
not an unsolved mystery. We found a roll of pennies on top of the safe that I don't know how it got there. I didn't even know it could fit up there. So I'll play it in my store then. That's fine. I loved Unsolved Mysteries as a kid. It had like the best music, and then the host. Is it going to be the same host? Is he still around?
No, he passed away years ago.
Son of a bitch.
I know. That's the one thing that I'm like, do I really want to watch this now?
Yeah, we do. They probably have even better Unsolved Mysteries. Like, can you imagine with all the technology we have, what kind of mysteries are unsolved right now? Shit, that's going to be some great stuff.
I always loved when they got to like the cryptids portion of it where they're like, and this is Mothman.
Oh, shit.
And here's Loch Ness. And as a teen, I was always like, ooh, that's the fun part of it.
You know
but
what?
I would still watch the murder shit.
Oh, the murder shit was good.
And I always liked update. And then, oh my God, they fucking caught him.
I saw the one that I remember like the most was some man was found walking on the side of the road. And they're like, he has no memory of who he is. But it turned out he was really this guy. And his family knew him. You know, it's going to be the very first episode.
What's that?
The spaceship crashed and he told these kids to touch a box.
Oh my God. That mystery is very solved. James Gunn.
We also have Yu-Gi-Oh! Season 1. Let's duel!
Didn't realize they removed it, but sure, we can play it again just to get some more Yu-Gi Boy. The villain is it sounds like James.
Box.
That's going to keep coming back.
That's what I'm stuck on this week. That's it.
Also, this is going to be massive for Netflix because even people like me, I can rewatch this now. The ESPN series, The Last Dance.
It's going to be giant.
The Michael Jordan docu-series. It is incredibly good. If you don't have ESPN Plus, no reason to get it now because it is now on Netflix.
What did they have to pay ESPN Plus for this? I don't even want to know.
I don't know what kind of deal or exclusive. I'm sure it was like a timed exclusive with ESPN Plus, and then from there they worked it out with whoever's in charge of that docuseries. It is a good get. Definitely watch it. It is amazing.
I'm also excited for this one. It's called Street Food Latin America.
And that's season 1 of it. I watched all of Street Food Asia, and I go back and rewatch it every now and again. If you ever want motivation or to light a fire under your ass about working,
light an ass.
watch the Asia Street Food because it goes through these shop owners and cooks and chefs that work incredibly hard. They put me to shame because of the work ethic that they have under them. And it is an amazing series. You get to see the stories of all of these different people and how they came up from these very difficult origins and how they still work hard to maintain this tradition or this food or this work. And now I get to see that with people that I can definitely relate to in Latin America. They had something similar with, I believe it was called Tacos Chronicles. That was also really, really fucking good. But this particular series, the street food stuff, it is amazing. And I can't wait to see what they do with Latin America.
I just want to see all the great food. Be like, I could cook that, but I can't cook that.
No, you need a streetcar. You need to work 20 hours out of the day.
I need not up-to-date health code.
You need to, that's true. Well, and you got to be 90 years old and still kicking. Another one on this list is Transformers War for Cybertron Season 1.
Cool.
I saw a trailer for this months back when they first announced it, and I'm not big on Transformers, but that did make me want to see it, and I'm glad it's finally hitting Netflix.
And the last thing on our list is The Umbrella Academy Season 2.
Time to reorder up on the trades.
Yeah.
Couldn't keep them in stock when that season 1 came out.
We saw several episodes, and I did really enjoy it. But again, as anything in our life, it's just so jam-packed. You just really have to choose like what's most important right now. But I do think at some point I'd want to go back and finish that.
Next week, we will be doing what's new on HBO Max, per usual, kind of like we started with last month.
Per usual.
My favorite streaming service, personally, HBO Max. So I'm looking forward to next week's episode. But again, if you want to see the full list, what's new on Netflix, July 2020, go on Google. It'll give you the full rundown.
But with all our news out of the way, we can move into our Patreon shoutouts. That is a thank yous to everyone who makes this show possible.
First shout out this week goes out to Christian on Instagram at ChristianLikeTheReligion131.
Christian shared an old family photo on Father's Day of a meet and greet with Mickey Mouse.
I always like seeing that, the younger versions of a lot of our Brokehead Core members, and especially their family members when they post. Thankfully, this wasn't like the scary looking Mickey Mouse, like that really
terrifying
old one. Right.
Yeah.
It was more of a modernized one from, I think, the 90s. And it was a good family photo. I'm glad Christian shared it.
One of my oldest pictures with my dad, I mean, obviously, like I have birth photos, right? But I have a very old picture of him and I sitting in Minnie Mouse's chair in her house.
Oh, yeah, in Toontown.
In Toontown, yep, when their houses were there. And I remember it very fun. Like, I remember walking through that house and I set off the alarms because I was trying to look at the TV. It was a whole thing. It was great.
Way to go.
That's what I do.
Next shout out this week goes out to Renee on Twitter at Yugi's Pokemon. Renee
posted his Pokemon Go trainer code, which is 4360-4201-8407.
Make sure to add Renee on Pokemon Go to trade Pokemon and trade gifts.
Up next, we have Corey B., whose Twitter handle is at Comictropolis.
Corey tweeted a picture of a mother box with the quote, "He's hungry and he's found us," end quote.
I'm hungry too.
I'm fucking hyped for Zack Snyder's. Like all these awesome tweets and posts and fan art and posters, it keeps that fire going. It is incredible. And Corey's an amazing supporter of Zack Snyder's Justice League and of the Reasons I'm Broke podcast. So thank you so much, Corey.
Our next shout out goes out to Shane M, Twitter handle at S_Miller_27.
Shane read Green Lantern Omnibus Volumes 1 and 2 by Jeff Johns. His favorite Green Lantern is Kyle Rayner.
Oh, Kyle Rayner. Don't like Kyle Rayner.
It's not Guy Gardner.
Guy Gardner is my least favorite. And then Kyle Rayner. My most favorite is Jon Stewart.
See, your answer is not Sinestro. So I think you're wrong too.
I always consider Sinestro a Yellow Lantern.
He's the greatest. Have you not read the Sinestro Cold War? He is a Green Lantern at heart.
Okay, but I was also thinking Earth Green Lanterns. He's not an Earth Green Lantern.
Fine.
He's a, I don't know, Krogunk Green Lantern, wherever he's from.
Korrigar?
Krogunk, Korrigar. Same thing.
No, Kyle Rayner's a great. They're all the lanterns. I think that's what I like the most about the Earth Green Lanterns is they're each very different compared to one another, and that's why each one is so successful in having their passionate fan base, like Kyle Rayner, like Guy Gardner, and I think Jeff Johns is a huge testament and should be credited for his run on his 9 years because he gave each of them their own story, their own highlights, their own great moments.
You want to just go marry him? You talk about how great he is all the time.
Who, Sinestro?
I mean, him too.
Thank you so much. Also, Shane, he bought some merchandise from our T Public store. That was awesome.
Cool.
Thank you.
Our next shout out goes out to Abdul Red Haji. You can find him on Twitter at, I'm going to butcher this,
R. Gadanfar. He responded to Umberto's nonsense with, quote, "My man, weren't you the one who literally got everything about the Snyder Cut wrong? Congrats, you just got played," end quote.
You got played.
He was calling out one of these scoopers. He's probably the most notorious for just calling out every fucking thing. And then the one hit he gets, he's like, see? And people believe it and they eat it right up. I think he originated from Latino Review, which was huge on just speculation and rumors and unfounded. I've got insiders, and he's still like that. What's happening right now is all of these scoopers are eating each other up because they want the scoop that about Zack Snyder's Justice League or about the superhero movies, and they're not getting it, or they're making things up, or they're wrong, or they're calling each other out for being wrong. And it's like, dude, you're not one to talk. Shut your fucking mouth. And that's exactly what Abdul Redha was saying on here.
Well, good. I'm glad somebody's calling him out and telling him he's wrong. We have to protect the Snyder Cut and all the amazing things that we've done.
Absolutely right. Well done, Brokehead Core. And we've got our final shout out this week. It goes out to Jimmy.
Thank you so much, Jimmy. Your support really helps us make the show possible.
So another round of thank yous to Christian, Renee, Corey, Shane, Abdul Redha, and Jimmy for your support this month.
If you would like your shout out every single month for just $1 a month, that's 25 cents an episode, you too can get your shout out. We'll stalk your Twitter. We'll tell people what you're doing. It's a great time.
You also get the Batman the Animated Series commentary episodes 1 month ahead of public release. I know Palpa Kelly will be doing another one when we get to another Harley Quinn episode, or maybe to an episode that she's interested in. I'm working to eventually get up to Two-Face parts 1 and 2 and try to get one of the Brokehead Core members on. They know who they are. I don't want to name him exactly yet because obviously interviews and guest spots fall apart all the time, but it's another perk to joining the Patreon Brokehead Core.
But of course, our podcast will always be free. Best thing you can do is reach out to us on Twitter. Let us know what you thought of the show, what you want to hear. Leave us a Brokehead question, which we can answer on the show. And of course, let your friends know about us.
Let's head into our comic book highlight of the week.
This week, as chosen by the Brokettes, is Batman, the Smile Killer #1. This is a one-shot.
It's written by Jeff Lemire, art by Andrea Sorrentino, and colors by Jordi Belair.
This goes hand in hand, has a lot of the same characters and the same themes as Batman Killer Smile, that Black Label Joker book that we got, where he pretty much drives another psychiatrist insane.
I think it was called Joker Killer Smile. I'm trying to remember, but the title is exactly that, an inversion, a split, a change, and it's all told by the perspective of Batman. I think if you did read Killer Smile, you need to get the Smile Killer because a lot of that particular miniseries is fleshed out in this, and there's some good callbacks to it. People are really talking about it on Twitter, especially of, this idea that people are fascinated with of what if, we know Batman's insane, but what if it's all in his head, like it's all a fantasy? And that's the idea that this kind of plays around with.
I think going into this, I expected it to be something different than what it was. I thought that, it's always interesting to see that story again of Batman's crazy, right? And here's the people in his life that are trying to help him become sane and how he translates them into, spoilers, for example, Gordon's his psychiatrist in this versus the police commissioner who's helping him out. I still felt kind of lost going through this though. And I don't know if it wasn't because it wasn't really clear what was in his head. Is this real? Is it not real? How did he get to this point where he's in this insane asylum? I don't know. And they didn't make that clear. I guess it's really left up to our speculation. But in those instances, I would just rather know if he's crazy, cool. Tell me he's crazy. And that was really awesome to see that different take on it. But if he's really Batman, like they lead us to believe in the end, then let me know that he's really Batman. But then I also want to know how he got in there. Like, where's the Mad Hatter using this mind control device or these different things?
I do think at face value, that is basically what the story is. But I think where a lot of people are getting a lot of their substance from this, I guess, one shot or this one-off story is in the artwork. It is in the callback to these characters, especially like Mr. Smiles, where we did see a lot of him and how he was able to influence this psychologist in the regular miniseries. But then when you go against Batman and try to manipulate his mind, you do see that, yes, that does happen. But at the end of the day, it's still Bruce Wayne. It's still Batman. He understands the Joker more than anyone. So I think that's where it was unexpectedly optimistic, especially after what happened with Killer Smile.
I will say one piece that I feel really, really bothered me, and that maybe that's why I didn't dive as deeply into the rest of the story as I did. And again, spoilers, but there's that point where young Bruce is being influenced by Mr. Smiley and attempting to hurt himself. And Martha walks in and slaps him and is like, "What are you doing?" And I just felt that was, in every iteration I've seen of her, I just felt that that was very out of character. I don't ever feel that she's a woman that would go in and slap her child. She removed the dangerous object from his hand. There wasn't any reason to slap him.
I think that's you as a mom.
I think that is me as a mom. And I think at
you're
that
judging
point,
Martha.
I probably am, but I feel like at that point, that's where I kind of checked out and I was like, nope, I'm not cool with this. And like I said, I probably wasn't as invested from that point moving forward. But seeing that, I'm like, she's kind of crazy too, because it wasn't like she slapped him across the face.
Let us know, Brocat Core members, what you thought of this one shot. And thank you again for coming out on Twitter and voting in this poll. We tend to put it up every Wednesday morning based on what we picked up for New Comic Book Day. I know next week it's an extremely light week. I don't think there's any DC or Marvel releases. There's just independent books. And I don't know if we have anything on that particular pull list. And that's because of July being a 5 Wednesday month, that all the publishers thin out and spread the releases throughout the 5 Wednesdays, whereas normally we get the 4 Wednesday months. So I think, I don't know if we'll have a comic book next week, but we'll figure it out. But if we do, we will have a poll up and y'all can decide on what you want to vote for and what you want us to discuss on the podcast. So, Palpa Kelli, you jumped right into Pokemon Cafe after I tagged you on Twitter. It is your favorite things, which is a cafe. You work at a coffee shop and put Pokemon into it.
Yeah, and it's so cool because I'm still running a coffee shop and I got to use my little Pokemon to make lattes. And I'm like, this isn't how you make a latte, but whatever.
It's a Pokemon latte.
It's a Poke Latte. Yeah, so really cool. It's a puzzle game. It's interesting because it kind of, for me, falls along the same lines, kind of like Candy Crush, but not quite, because, you know, you're stringing little Pokemon faces together, but as you're doing that, they move along with you. So you don't have to have things directly next to each other, but it really makes for some challenges sometimes because you have to drop things, down into the basket. You got to get the tomato from the top down into the basket. And you're like, okay, well, I'll just connect these and delete them and they'll move. Well, no, but it like moved along with you. So something else slid into its place. So you just cleared a whole bunch, but it's still not enough to get the tomato into the basket. So again, a really addicting game because it's, just short little bursts. And then as you're going through, you're recruiting more Pokemon to work in your cafe because they try enough lattes and they're like, I'll just work here now. And I'm like, okay. But different ones have different specialties. So you got to look at, okay, what are you making? I've already spent $4 on it because there was a special Pikachu. And I was like, all right, got to buy this Pikachu.
To be clear, this is available on iDevices, Android devices, and on the Nintendo Switch. So it is free to play, but pay to win, I think is what they call it, microtransactions.
Yeah, so I haven't hit a point where I've had to spend money yet. As you complete these puzzles, you earn little acorns, that's the money, golden acorns. And when you don't complete a puzzle, you have the option to use a golden acorn or a certain number of golden acorns to get additional moves to like finish that puzzle. But if you've played Candy Crush, it's very similar. You can go through all of Candy Crush without paying anything. But if you use up all your lives, you have to wait for them to recharge, right? So that may take till the next day till you get all your lives back and continue going. And very similar in that instance. So I haven't reached a point yet where I have to pay to continue to play.
It's not one that I downloaded, but I did watch you play, and I really especially like all of the artwork that they put up for the Pokemon.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Bulbasaur hasn't shown up, though.
He hasn't. He probably will.
He better.
But it's a very 2D artwork and very cute and just a little bit different than the standard Pokemon artwork that you get.
You also downloaded a Pokemon app for Leo so that he brushes his teeth. Yeah. How's that work?
It's really cool. So when I downloaded Pokemon Cafe, it showed up at the bottom. And this is also by the Pokemon Company. But super cute. You choose a Pokemon. So I've seen Bulbasaur. There's also Pikachu. I didn't care after that. I was like, oh, yep, these two. But when you click on them, it's essentially playing a game while you brush your teeth. So you hold the phone up in selfie mode. There's a little Pokemon sitting on your head that smiles and moves around as it senses you, recognizes that you're brushing your teeth. And then in one mode, you can actually fight Pokemon while you're brushing your teeth. Nice. So it really engages the kids because you got to brush for a longer period of time to be able to do these things. Super cute. When I signed up for it, it's actually wasn't made for the US. So when you picked your country, it said like Korea, Japan, and other.
Gotcha.
Which was interesting because usually they have every country on there or whatever. So I feel it was almost like, well, we're releasing this. Might as well do this as well. Just throw English in there. But really, really cute. He really enjoyed it. He was like smiling and brushing his teeth more and letting me help him brush his teeth. So super smart. Again, it was a free app. And, if it gets our child to brush his teeth, excellent.
I also have here on the notes, I'm assuming it's something that you added,
yes.
But is it more story time with Emperor Palpatelli?
It is story time with Emperor Palpatelli.
So what is this Naturo run?
So what reminded me of it is Leo has started Naturo running everywhere. When he wants to run back, he throws his arms back. I guess that makes him go faster. I don't know, but he started doing that. So it reminded me of a time in high school where there was a kid, he was 2 grades older than me, but my school was so small that like lunch was the same time for everybody. So we all, every grade in high school walked to lunch together, walked back from lunch together. Cause even still with all 4 grades, it was only like 50 kids. It wasn't a lot. So this kid decided, and he was the only kid at my school who was super big about anime because it was like nobody talked about it. But he wrote papers about anime, I remember. And like film reviews were anime film reviews. And it just...
I like it.
It was a way of life for him. So that's fine.
Did he wear anime shirts?
On like free dress day, yes.
Gotcha.
Because we had uniforms. So once a month we were allowed to wear whatever we wanted. And yes, he would wear anime shirts. Anyway. I digress. So he wanted to be cool when we were walking back from lunch one day. And so he was Naturo running like the whole way. I don't know why. I remember seeing it and I'm like, what are you doing? And then at one point, like I was in the back of the crowd and there was like a whole crowd up near the front and like screaming and like people going crazy. I don't know. So he was trying to be cool and he was Naturo running. And then they got up to the door and he decided he was going to Naturo punch the door.
Oh no.
And he punched through the glass
Oh,
of the
no.
door and sliced his wrist open like crazy. Like, it was bad.
Too much chakra.
Too much. But watching Leo run, like, I just remember that because he just, like, zoomed past me, like, that day, like, meow, and then punched the door and went right through it.
Jeez.
I saw his scar, like, a year later, and it was ginormous.
Holy shit. I didn't know that story.
Yeah, surprise. I'm still surprising you all these years later.
That reminds me of my buddy in high school. We used to do the mile run, right? And he decided that in the final lap, he was going to run like Sonic, which is very similar to Naturo running. And he had a very serious expression on his face. And he started, because he knew we were laughing at him, but he wanted to be serious about it anyway. And he ran that final lap. And I'm like, Tim, what? Oh, I said his name. I don't think he listens anyway. But I was like, why are you running like that? And he's like, less wind resistance. And I'm like, no, you're not going fast enough for there to be any less wind resistance. It's not saving you like an extra 18 seconds or anything like that.
Right.
You're not if that were the case, the Olympics would be full of Naturo running or Sonic the Hedgehog running. It just fucking cracked me up. I loved it. So that's what that reminded me of. Oh, you know how we're talking about Naturo because obviously that's how parents name it. I've got a name today. We've got a new name for Harley Quinn.
Oh my goodness.
It is, and I thought I misheard it, but then she repeated it. Marley Quinn.
Marley Quinn. Yes, it makes so much sense.
It was two moms. They came into the shop, and the one mom pointed at a statue of Harley and said, "Who is that?" She goes, "That's Marley Quinn."
She's a Marlequin.
Marlene Quinzel.
Oh my goodness.
So I guess she's Marley Quinn now.
Perfect. Raul al Ghul and Marley Quinn.
And Naturo and Game of Thorns. And
perfect.
The endless one of NBA Y2K from when I worked at GameStop.
Yes. There were some great ones. There was another one.
Pokemon?
Pokemon's is good, but there was like a Western one that everybody got wrong too.
Call of Wars.
There you go. Call of Wars.
Not Call of Juarez. It was Call of Wars. That confused the shit out of me because I'm like, you mean Call of Duty? And they're like, no, Call of Wars. I'm like, I don't know what that is.
Oh, people. I love it when they order not a macchiato, but they call it, I can't even remember.
Is it macchiato? Do they say machi?
Sometimes they say macchiato. Sometimes it's just like a macchiat.
All right.
Like it's amazing what people come up with when they play, and I'm like, what are you even talking about? Frappe still triggers me, but that's fine. Moving on.
Do you have anything else for the Brocat block before we close out today's episode?
I don't. It's been a busy week for me. It's going to continue to get busy. Just kind of overworking to help support other people, but that's fine. We had another record-breaking week last week in BD. Like, just being awesome.
Very
doing
nice.
our thing. So, yeah, work is killing it right now. I will rest someday.
I'll end my portion with a comic pro tip. If you picked up the any of the 80th anniversary issues that have been releasing recently, the Silver Age sized bags and boards will fit those. If you try to put it in a current size, it will rip the bag. And if you don't rip the bag, it's just going to be really tight and warp the comic anyway over time. Just get the silver size one. If your comic shop doesn't offer it to you, you know the size, Silver Age for the 80th anniversary, and then obviously magazine size for the most of the DC Black Label books.
But that does wrap up our podcast for the week. Thank you so much for tuning in this and every single week.
Did you say thank?
I did say thank you. Thank you.
Don't forget, for everywhere you can find us, head on over to thereasonsimbroke.com. We've got the masks now featured on our merch shop. So if you go to the pull-down menu, click on merch, you will find all kinds of designs on there. But of course, you'll also find our Twitter, Tumblr, Pinterest, LinkedIn, all of the awesome social media tools that you can follow and interact with us. You can always submit a question and we can answer it on the podcast right here.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I am Emperor Palpa Kelli.
And I am Ruin Maniac Daniel.
And Brocat Core. All will be well. What do you do as a ruin maniac? Are you just a maniac running through ruins? Are you a maniac causing ruins?
Did you like the ruins at all in the game?
I loved them. In
Why?
Silver, they were so great. They were puzzles again.
See, I don't like the ruins because of the fucking alphabet Pokemon. The what are they
unknown?
called? Yeah.
They were cool. You
I
had to
could never
collect
solve
them.
that shit.
What shit?
So they'd have the message on the wall and
Yeah.
it'd have a word, and I would catch the Pokemon that were those letters, but it wouldn't do a fucking thing.
Well, no, because you had to read the letters and decipher it and do what it told you to do.
Fuck that. Fuck
Like,
the ruins.
no, like one of them you had to read it and it said like use dig and you just used dig and then you went through.
It was dumb.
But those were later game ruins. I like the silver version ruins where you had to put together the puzzle of like Kabuto or Aerodactyl and then you fell down and then you got the unknown.
I vaguely remember those.
Those were really cool. I actually, the first time I played through, I rushed through that and I was like, yeah, this is so cool. That's also where you caught Natu or whatever it was. And I thought it was awesome because he was there. So I rushed through that. And then my second, even like now when I go through it, I'll do all but one piece and then I'll leave because I was like, I want to come back and do this again.
See, my problem is there was always, I remember the sandstorms being a big part of any kind of ruin. And it would make those wild encounters take forever because you ran into a Pokemon, you'd take the damage from the sandstorm before you can get to the run part, and then sometimes it wouldn't let you because there's a fucking sandstorm. Couldn't stand that shit.
But those were also later game ruins. I'm talking about silver ruins.
It ruins it for all of them.
It ruins the ruins.
I don't want to be a ruin maniac anymore. I'll be something next week. Something else.
You can use your maniacness to burn down the ruins.
Fuck history.